He never loved me. I can tell you that right now, the way one loves. He loved in his own way, which is not too good. And so he had no respect for me.
Hollywood icon Angie Dickinson wasn't just another pretty face. She had a captivating beauty, sure, but she also had a razor-sharp wit and a screen presence that could steal any scene. She was the star of the groundbreaking series Policewoman, a memorable co-star to the Rat Pack in the original Ocean's 11, and a leading lady who held her own against absolute legends like John Wayne and Lee Marvin. But off-screen, away from the Hollywood glamour, Dickinson had to navigate a world filled with powerful, complicated, and often very difficult men. Now we titled this video, "The 6 Men Angie Dickinson Hated the Most." But is hate really the right word? In Hollywood, that word gets thrown around for every little feud or on-set tiff. For Angie Dickinson, her relationships with some of the industry's biggest names were way more complicated than that. They were a mix of love, deep disappointment, professional clashes, and personal heartaches that shaped her entire life and career. While Dickinson has usually been pretty diplomatic in public, the stories from behind the scenes paint a picture of a woman with incredible strength and a long memory for those who crossed her. So today, we're counting down the 6 most challenging relationships that defined Angie Dickinson's journey. These aren't just simple stories of dislike, they're stories of resilience. Kicking off our list at number 6 is the man who basically defined 1970s swagger, Burt Reynolds. On paper, they seemed perfect for the era, 2 of the hottest stars on the planet. They even co-starred in the 1969 Western comedy Sam Whiskey and shared a nude scene that got people talking for years. But according to Dickinson, a real romance was never going to happen. "We went out a few times, but it was not a real romance, nor was it destined to be," she told People magazine. "Either I was with someone else, or he was." The issue here wasn't some big dramatic fight, but a clash of personalities. At the height of his fame, Reynolds had a reputation for being charming, but also a little flippant. Dickinson herself said he had an easy way with the common folk, unlike an untouchable star like John Wayne. He was relatable, but that charm could wear thin. Sources close to Dickinson have said she sometimes found him dismissive, more focused on his own superstar image than on the teamwork of making a movie. In an era where leading men ruled the set, Dickinson wasn't the type to just sit quietly. She came prepared, she was smart, and she expected to be treated with respect. With Reynolds, his larger-than-life, flirty personality sometimes felt condescending. So while audiences saw playful chemistry, behind the scenes, she saw another example of a Hollywood that didn't always take its female stars as seriously as the men. Still, her view of Reynolds wasn't black and white. After he passed away in 2018, she spoke about him with a real sense of fondness. "Burt was complex," she said, "and anyone who is complex is more difficult. We know he had his demons, but when you got him right, he was glorious and one of the funniest men I was ever around." She even recalled seeing his vulnerable side when he was heartbroken over his breakup with Sally Field. He was in agony over that, she remembered. He couldn't hide it. He was very, very free with his laugh, and he was free with showing his emotions and showing his pain. So it wasn't hate. It was a clear-eyed view of a man she found both glorious and difficult, a complicated dynamic that would pop up again and again in her Hollywood life. At number 5, we have the ultimate Hollywood tough guy, Lee Marvin. That gruff, explosive energy you saw on screen, that was the real deal. Dickinson starred with him in 2 violent and iconic crime films, The Killers and Point Blank, so she knew his intensity firsthand. Her experience with Marvin wasn't about personal dislike, but more about trying to work alongside a force of nature. When asked what he was like to work with in a 2012 interview, Dickinson just laughed and said, "He was a true Marine. He was stoic, fearless, and a man of few words. And scary. She called him awesome, but also admitted he was a tough scene partner because he never gave out praise. You're always looking for that okay sign, but he never gave it. But that's okay, I could live with that, she said, showing off her own professional toughness. Marvin's hardness was forged during his service in World War II, where he was wounded. Dickinson later reflected that he carried that trauma with him. I think he was a very sad man, she said in another interview. I think the war affects people so much more than we who are not in it realize. I think the war just made him sad. Her empathy shows she saw more than just a difficult co-star. She saw a wounded veteran channeling his pain into his art. The real challenge with Marvin was his intimidating presence and how distant he was professionally. He wasn't your warm and fuzzy co-star. Dickinson said he didn't have to act tough. It was just who he was. He was what you think he was, she explained. This created a tense atmosphere on set. In a 1969 interview, she admitted they would sometimes disagree on how to do a scene, but even then, she respected him. Even then, you like him, she confessed. So, was it hatred? Not at all. It was more like professional wariness. He was a force to be reckoned with, a tough bastard, as she once called him, but also a great guy. She respected his incredible talent and his striking look, from his face to his fantastic shock of white hair. Their relationship wasn't a friendship, but a deep professional respect between two masters of their craft. Our fourth entry is The Man Who Made. Angie Dickinson, a TV superstar, but also made her professional life a living hell, Jack Webb. As the creator of the 70s smash hit Policewoman, Webb gave Dickinson the role of Sergeant Pepper Anderson. It made her the first woman to lead a successful police drama, turning her into a household name and a pop culture icon. The show was a massive hit in the U.S. and around the world, earning her 3 Emmy nominations and a Golden Globe. But all that success came with a heavy price. Behind the scenes, Jack Webb was a notorious control freak. He came from the old Hollywood studio system and reportedly saw actors as interchangeable parts in his machine, not creative partners. This attitude was a direct clash with Dickinson's intelligence and creative spirit. She had great ideas for her character, but Webb was famous for shutting down any input from his actors. This led to a constant simmering tension on set, and the power imbalance was huge. In 70s television, a producer like Webb had total authority. One phone call from him could end a career. Dickinson knew her stardom depended on keeping Webb happy. So while she was a TV superstar on camera, she felt completely shackled behind it, forced to bite her tongue time and time again. She once told CBS News, "I like being called a sex symbol, but I want to be known more as an actress." Under Webb's control, she felt the sex symbol was always the priority, while the actress was ignored. This wasn't about personal hatred. It was about deep professional frustration. She was grateful for the opportunity he gave her, but she felt suffocated by his rigid, formulaic style. She wasn't just the star. She was the face of the network's huge investment, and the pressure to keep the show on top was immense. It's a classic Hollywood bargain. The man who made her a star was also the one who clipped her artistic wings. These stories really pull back the curtain on the incredible strength Angie Dickinson had. If you're loving this deep dive into classic Hollywood, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so you don't miss what's next. All right, let's get back to the list. At number 3, we have a relationship that's really hard to label, one that played out for everyone to see, her friendship with the king of late night, Johnny Carson. For years, Angie Dickinson was one of Carson's absolute favorite guests on The Tonight Show. Their on-screen chemistry was just electric, a playful, flirty vibe that had millions of viewers wondering if there was more to the story. Some sources even claim they had a brief relationship in the early 80s. Dickinson herself knew they had something special. "We just both seem to get devilish when we get on the air," she said in a 1982 interview. She loved teasing the audience about it. When a fan once asked her if something was going on between them, she shot back, "Wouldn't you love to know?" Their interviews felt like watching two old friends just hanging out, full of genuine laughter. In one appearance, Carson said it was hard to interview her because they knew each other so well, and Dickinson agreed, admitting the things she'd really want to say couldn't be said on air. She once even declared on the show, "But everybody knows I love you," making it clear she had deep affection for him. So why is he on a list of difficult men? The idea of a bitter feud seems to come from old, unsubstantiated rumors about a public betrayal. But there's just no real evidence to back that up. Their decades-long history of warm, funny appearances suggests the exact opposite. In 1985, long after their rumored romance, she was still quoted as having a soft spot for him, saying, "I think Johnny and I will always be attracted to each other." The real complication probably wasn't some big falling out, but just the weirdness of having a friendship that was also a public performance. She even starred in a TV show for his production company, Cassie & Co., in 1982, saying her deep affection for him was a big reason she took the job. This isn't a story of hatred. It's a story of a unique and very public friendship that lit up late-night TV for years. The man at number 2 is the one who caused Angie Dickinson the most profound and lasting pain. Her husband of 16 years, the brilliant composer Burt Bacharach. On the outside, they were a Hollywood golden couple, the gorgeous actress and the genius songwriter. They married in 1965 and seemed to have it all. But behind closed doors, their life was a story of emotional neglect, unimaginable tragedy, and a love that Dickinson would later say was never really returned. In a shockingly candid 2019 interview with CBS Sunday Morning, Dickinson held nothing. Speaking about Bacharach, she said, "He never loved me, I can tell you that right now, the way one loves. He loved in his own way, which is not too good. And so he had no respect for me." This wasn't said in the heat of the moment. It was a painful reflection decades after their divorce. She added that Bacharach should never have been married. The heart of their tragedy was their daughter, Leah Nikki, born in 1966. Nikki was 3 months premature and spent her first months in an incubator. As she grew, she developed severe health and behavioral issues, and it wasn't until she was an adult that she was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. The constant stress of raising their daughter, who struggled so much, destroyed the marriage. Dickinson became Nikki's full-time caregiver and soulmate, while Bacharach was often distant, both physically and emotionally. He later admitted in his own autobiography that he had affairs. Dickinson knew about them, once saying that if she didn't see it with her own eyes, she tried not to think about it. The combination of his infidelity and the lonely burden of caring for Nikki created a marriage that left Dickinson feeling completely disrespected. She was so crazy about him that she would arrange her policewoman shooting schedule just to be home to cook him dinner, a sacrifice she felt he never returned. The final devastating chapter came in 2007, when Nikki, at age 40, died by suicide. In their joint statement, her parents said she did it to escape the ravages to her brain brought on by Asperger's. This unimaginable loss was the tragic end to a marriage defined by pain. Dickinson's feelings for Bacharach weren't simple hatred. It was something far worse. The agony of a love she felt was never returned, and a partnership that crumbled under the weight of a family tragedy she had to carry almost entirely on her own. And at number 1, we have the most complex, the most influential, and ultimately the most heartbreaking male figure in Angie Dickinson's life. He wasn't a man she hated. He was the man she has repeatedly called the love of her life, Frank Sinatra. Theirs was an epic on-and-off romance that lasted for 10 years and nearly ended in marriage. To this day, she still talks about him with a smile, listening to his music all day long. As she has said in multiple interviews over the years, he's the love of my life. He was an extraordinary talent, but he was also an extraordinary man. He was difficult, wonderful, brave, and foolish. That word, difficult, is the key. While some online rumors paint Sinatra as a possessive monster, Dickinson's own words tell a different story. She has consistently described their relationship as a very comfortable one, built on an incredible like for each other, and they remained friends until he died. So why does he top a list of challenging men? Because loving Frank Sinatra was the ultimate challenge. They got very close to getting married in 1964, but it was Angie who pulled back. She knew exactly what becoming Mrs. Frank Sinatra would mean. "I would not have wanted to take that challenge on," she explained. A big part of it was his famous late-night lifestyle, which just wasn't for her. But she also had a strategic reason. She didn't want to be in the position of having to turn down a proposal from him. "I actually didn't want to marry him," she admitted to CBS, "so I didn't want him to ask me to marry him, because I didn't want to say no to Frank Sinatra. Think about the power he must have had. You just didn't say no to Frank Sinatra." He had famously told her he wasn't going to marry an actress. With her classic wit, she replied, "Well, I don't blame you. I wouldn't wish that on anybody." This relationship wasn't about hatred. It was about a love so powerful it was dangerous. Dickinson was smart enough to see that the very things that made him magnetic, his power, his charisma, his all-consuming presence, would have demanded she give up her own identity. She chose her independence over becoming just another person in Sinatra's orbit. He represents the ultimate challenge because he was the great love she had to let go of to save herself. The heartache wasn't from mistreatment, but from making the incredibly difficult choice to walk away from the man she loved most. From on-set friction with Hollywood tough guys to the deep, personal sorrow of a broken marriage, Angie Dickinson's life was shaped by men who were as brilliant as they were difficult. Her stories prove that hate is too simple a word. They are nuanced tales of a woman who navigated power, love, and loss with intelligence and a quiet strength that made her an icon. She stood her ground, held her own, and made heartbreaking choices, all while building a legendary career. Her life is a powerful reminder that behind every Hollywood star is a human story of survival, strength, and incredible complexity. What do you think about these complicated relationships? Did we miss anyone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And before you click away, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories from Hollywood's golden age. Click the thumbnail on your screen to check out our next video. Thanks for watching.